Hello to the two people here. I'm just getting everything set up, trying to get the chat pulled up. Something popped up. A new timeout lane, so you can now put people in timeout. I can put people in timeout now. Well, did not know that was a thing, but all right. Thank you, YouTube. Hello, in between the lanes. Hope you're doing well. It's the end of 2023, people. It's hard to believe. Another year that has flown by. But I've got no base topics, guideline, or direction I want this thing to go. I just figured to do something else before the end of 2023. So I figured, just do a live stream versus trying to do a 1 hour mashup of a bunch of videos this year. I could have done that, but it's not too late for that. But it's almost 2024 in about 8 hours, just under 8 hours now. So, I figured, let's just do a live stream, talk about whatever we want. We could talk about NASCAR, F1, the weirdest moments from the season, talk about the weirdest moments in sports. There have been some weird ones. There's been a lot of things that have happened on this channel. As I said, NASCAR, F1. Just showed you a video from the Cotton Bowl a few days ago. March Madness. It's been a very spread out year. Let me get back to the comments here. Happy New Year, Micah Brown. We're almost there. 2024, just a few hours away, as I said. In Between the Lanes says that they're doing well. Glad you're doing well. Good to hear. I'm doing fine. 2023 is almost over. 2024 is almost here, which is that's nice, I guess. Happy New Year to you, Kelsey. Happy New Year to you, In Between the Lanes. Happy New Year to all, as we're almost there. Watching the 2020 Martinsville Fall race. That was a good one. That was when Elliott wanted to get in the Final Four and Harvick wrecked himself because this format is stupid. Yeah. Are we really going to end the year on a rant about the playoff format? Look, I was so happy that Chase Elliott won that championship, yes, because he drove Jeff Gordon's old car, and I'm a Jeff Gordon fan, but Harvick didn't even have a chance to fight for the championship in Phoenix. This format ceases to amaze me. I can't stand this playoff format. That could be another 20-minute rant, but I don't want to end the year on a sour note. Earlier this morning, I'm sorry to hear that. The pet's dying is always sad. It's never a fun thing to go through, so I'm sorry about that. Very sad to hear. Any favorite moments in all three NASCAR touring series in 2023? That's a very good question. The Chicago street race, it's not necessarily as an individual moment. There wasn't like a one moment in that race, but just the whole weekend, it was really cool because NASCAR had never been to a street race. There was rain, which made the Cup race exciting. Obviously, it rained out the Xfinity race, which was a bit of a sour note, but overall, the Cup race was great. The racing was fantastic. The rain added some spice to it. Shane Van Gisbergen making his debut and being an instant contender made it extremely exciting. Seeing different faces up there as well, not just SVG, but also seeing Justin Haley, Austin Dillon up there. Chase Elliott, who needed a win at the time, was up there as well. So seeing a variety of stories at the front was really fun as well. And then, as I said, the racing was great. The rain added a different spice to it. So Chicago was definitely top three. As for two others, the Kyle Busch RCR, that was a really hot story earlier on in the year, but later in the year it really died down. So I wouldn't put that top three. Two other stories. The 75th anniversary was a big deal. Lots of throwback paint schemes. Lots of bringing back old drivers to tracks and stuff. Things like that. Just a lot of history being talked about. That was cool. So I'd say that was top three. And then the third would be... I'm trying to think. It's if we're going overall, maybe the trucks championship. I know it's a negative, but it was such a crapshoot, and it was talked about so much. Maybe it's recency biased, but I don't want to put that in the top three. So I'm going to say for sure Chicago Street Race Weekend, 75th anniversary, and then the third one. It's a good question. Give me a minute to think about it. I'm going to go to some other comments, and I'll try to jog my memory here. I watched the 2020 Kansas Fall race. Oh my god, I hated that race so much. Joey Logano did. You think the race gets too much hate? It was a fun race. The finish was the frustrating part. See, that is the thing. Joey Logano, he did that perfectly. A lot of people dislike Joey Logano. He was a villain. He was like the villain there for a few years. Joey Logano did nothing wrong. He played it perfectly. He played defense perfectly on Kevin Harvick. He did everything right and deserved a spot in the Final Four because he played it perfectly. The thing is, it should never have come down to that. Kevin Harvick was better. His car was better. His team was better. His tires were better. Whatever the situation was, but he couldn't get by because of air. Something that we can't see. I can't see the air. Look, if I do this right now, did you see the air go by? No, you didn't. But if I throw my hat here, you see that go by. So, difference between air and a hat, that's a bad example, but you get my point. Rip Cale Yarborough, yeah, that was sad news to hear this morning for sure. Obviously, I was not around to watch Cale Yarborough race, but you see a bunch of his highlights. There was one highlight this morning that I saw. Qualifying at Daytona in the 70s or maybe 80s, he put down like a really fast lap, like over 200 miles an hour. I think it was the fastest lap in NASCAR history at the time. And he followed up and he wanted to try to beat it. And he was going over 215, 220 on the back stretch and sending it a little bit too hard in 3 and 4. And he flipped and he gets out of the car. He does his interview. He's like, yeah, I just wanted to see if I could go faster, something like that. So, it's been really cool to see all the highlights and stuff because, as I said, I wasn't around when he was racing. Obviously, I heard a lot about him. He's in the history books. He was the first driver to win 3 straight championships. He had over 80 wins. He's top, 5, 6 on the record book in terms of the wins. So he's accomplished a lot. He's in the NASCAR history books. Very, very highly esteemed driver. So that was definitely sad to hear this morning that he had died. But always will be remembered in the NASCAR world as a legend. So once again, very sad to hear here at the end of the year, but still, as I said, NASCAR legend will be remembered in a very good way for his accomplishments. Happy New Year to you, Patty. Hope all is going well with you. In Between the Lanes says, any favorite paint schemes from 2023 you like? I love a good Jeff Gordon throwback. So seeing that Byron Gordon throwback at Darlington win was really cool. I like the normal Exalta scheme. That, according to Twitter, that's like a controversial take. I like that they gave Byron his own individual Exalta scheme, and that they made it his own. And then Exalta being a paint, they do different colors. They had the yellow, the green, the blue, the red. I thought it looked fine. Yeah, they got a little weird with it because the OSS scanning trickery, but when it was its normal scheme, it looked pretty. I liked it. And now they went away from it. And the new scheme, we'll do a paint scheme preview sometime in January. The new Exalta paint scheme, the front half of the car is beautiful. The back half of the car exists. But stepping outside of my Jeff Gordon mindset, some of the best paint schemes in 2023. It's a good question. I got to think through the roster here. I'm going through number 1, Ross Chastain, number 2, Austin Cindric, 3, Austin Dillon, Kevin Harvick. Harvick, oh my gosh. Harvick's throwback at North Wilkesboro, so cool. The fact that they got the 29 car back, very cool. Great detail, that whole thing. Very glad Richard Childress and SHR could come to an agreement there. I think Busch Light was the sponsor. Really glad they were all able to reach an agreement there because that was really cool. I think that was the top-selling die-cast of the year. Great-looking race car. Great to see. Great tribute. I'm a fan of Larson's patriotic scheme. It's not the normal Hendrick car scheme. It looks like an American flag. It's a cool scheme. I don't know if it's like my favorite, but it's one of my favorites. We could go through every number here. I'm going to try to make this quicker. Ah, man. This may take a minute. Honestly, this may take a minute. Trying to think. So I gotta Google this. I gotta Google paint schemes. 2023 NASCAR paint schemes. Because I am blanking at the moment. I've been so out of the NASCAR mindset. It's bad. It's very bad when I'm out. Oh, Bubba Wallace, his spring Las Vegas Columbia scheme. Very neat looking car. And then his North Wilkesboro Columbia scheme. His Columbia paint schemes this year were fantastic. The McDonald's paint scheme took a huge step backwards, which was really disappointing. But the Columbia paint schemes, very, very good looking. Scrolling through here. Oh, how could I forget? Both Ally paint schemes, the 48 car, beautiful. The daytime and the nighttime, I preferred the daytime. I thought it was the clash of colors, the way the colors flowed. I loved the 48, and I wish they were doing it again next year. I'm not a big fan of their 2024 scheme, but I thought the Ally schemes, I think the day scheme was probably, that might have been my favorite scheme of the year. So to answer your question, we're going to go with Ally number 48 daytime paint scheme. Top 3 favorite races of 2023. Kansas Spring Race, regular season finale at Daytona despite the Priest crash, and the Coke 600. 3 great choices, honestly. That Kansas Spring Race was insane. It had everything you wanted in a race. Drama up front early and late with Larson spinning off of Reddick's front bumper on like lap 3, lap 4, lap 5, somewhere in there. Then the last lap crash between Larson and Hamlin. You had a fight on pit road between Chastain and Gregson. And then overall, just great racing. Kansas in the next gen era has arguably been the best track on the schedule. And it continued to show that this year with both races. Especially the spring race. So I would agree with you. I think that's for sure a contender for top 3 if it's not top 3. Regular season finale at Daytona was great. The super speedway package struggled early on in the next gen era, but has really picked up the pace here in 2023. They've figured out how to run 3 lanes. Once you can get enough strength, enough cars, you can make it like the old package almost. You can't get as big of runs, but you can still run 3x3x3. So the Daytona finale was really good. There was about 5-6 laps where 33 cars were 3x3x3x3 times 11, and it was beautiful. Great pictures from it, great video, great broadcast of it. It was just beautiful. It was NASCAR at its purest form, which was just epic. So that was definitely up there. Top 5, top 10 at worst. And then the Coke 600, I remember it being a good race. It wasn't as good as the 2022 edition. I remember that. But if I had to say top 3 races, Kansas Spring I will put in there. I'm not going to do a particular order, but I'm going to say Kansas Spring was in there. I'm going to say Chicago Street Race was in there. Once again, I talked about it earlier, how much I enjoyed that race. And then for a third race, I was there, so I might be a little biased, but Talladega Spring, that race has stuck with me all year long. There was so much going on in it. It got a little bit of that super speedway chaos that we haven't seen in the next gen era. We haven't seen the big crashes, the chaos, but we saw that in that race. We saw different contenders up front, and then Kyle Busch won with RCR. Kyle Busch hasn't won at Talladega in 15 years. So I'm going to say Talladega in the spring was in it, but once again, I'm probably biased because I was actually there. But I really enjoyed that race. Going to be interesting in 2024 without Kyle Busch Motorsports and GMS in the Truck Series. Yeah, Truck Series is taking on a new form almost. You got 2 of the winningest teams in the last decade leaving. GMS and Kyle Busch Motorsports both, dominant in their own ways. Kyle Busch, both teams really, but Kyle Busch Motorsports, you think about more in terms of bringing up talent through the ranks. Eric Jones, Christopher Bell, William Byron, some guys you see on Sundays now, not just seeing on Sundays, but winning on Sundays. So it's going to be weird without Kyle Busch Motorsports. Spire, they're not just doing a money throw at this thing. I think Spire's very serious about contending. So Kyle Busch Motorsports is not selling to some part-time team. They're not selling to some starting part team. I think Spire is trying to get serious about winning in NASCAR, and hopefully they can continue the legacy of Kyle Busch Motorsports. Obviously not in the same name. They're not going to have the same banners, but, continuing in the sense of developing drivers at a young age, helping them grow, helping them move to the next step, and then eventually get to the Cup Series like we see with the drivers I just listed. I hope your New Year's Eve is going splendid, and I wish you a happy new year and hope 2024 is full of the legendary racing memes. Thank you, Dylan. Very cool. I hope Fernando Alonso does well for you. Maybe he'll win a race this year. That'd be good. But yeah, there were a lot of good racing memes this year. We had Sergio Perez. He was on a good bit of memes this year. The NASCAR memes, I'm trying to think. Just Noah Gragson crashing at the Chicago street race with the Wendy's car and then them advertising Wendy's as he was crashing. That was pretty meme worthy. That might be the top NASCAR meme of 2023 unless I'm missing something. Oh man, there's always so many racing memes, but I love good memes. They're always funny. So if you ever see, funny racing memes, let me know. I'm all about it. Oh, and then how could I forget the Ross Chastain memes? We did a 30-minute video on this. Remember? When Christopher Bell blamed Ross Chastain at the Richmond race for crashing him when he didn't even get close to touching him. And then, of course, everyone starts making memes blaming Ross Chastain for different things. Ross Chastain was the asteroid that destroyed the dinosaurs. Ross Chastain, the dinosaur was one of my favorites. So that's the one I remember the most. There were a lot of them, but anyways, the Ross Chastain memes were great. Once again, my brain is out of the NASCAR mindset, which is not good, but Ross Chastain memes. All right. Ross Chastain memes. Of course, my own video pops. Oh, Ross Chastain, right? Max Verstappen at Silverstone in 2021. That was funny. That was a good one. A racing reference. Ross Chastain, right? Wrecked Dale Jr. in 2008 at Richmond. Oh man, some great memes. There were some bad ones too. I won't mention them, but I'm sure you can find them if you cared enough. But yes, Ross Chastain memes were pretty funny this year. Trackhouse usually have some of the best paint schemes. Penske are some of the most boring ones. Sunshine Cool Water, you're not wrong. No disrespect to Penske. Obviously, a lot of success in that organization. Daytona 500s, Indianapolis 500s, you name it. But their paint game is weak. So, yeah. The 22 is just yellow. The Menard scheme never changes. The discount tire is just white with a couple of black stripes. Spice it up there, Roger. I get that they want to be the classy team. They want to have the all clean-cut look. But can we get some spicy paint schemes every once in a while? Is that asking too much? I think that's asking too much. And you know that Logano has Hunt Brothers Pizza now. You know that's going to be an all green or all red scheme. I have the lowest expectations for that paint scheme next year. As for Trackhouse, they are the complete opposite. And that's not disrespectful. That is with the utmost respect. They throw everything in every direction, every color, and every different swirl, cut, line, whatever they have to do to make it pretty, they make it pretty. ComScope was one of my favorites. The WWX, what is it, Worldwide Express or whatever, that is a beautiful paint scheme with the blue and black. The Moose car is always great looking. The OXN or whatever, Daniel Suarez, his black and red car, always funny. I said funny because I saw a comment and I thought something was funny. Always great looking, I should say. So yes, Trackhouse always nailing the paint schemes. Penske, respectfully, pick up your game. With the paint schemes, on track, you're doing great in terms of winning. Chase Elliott should win the Daytona 500 2023 or Dayton 2023. He's been great at the super speedways in this new next gen car. I don't know why, but he's got 2 wins. He almost won Daytona in the fall. He's won stages at Talladega this year. I don't know what it is about the super speedways in the next gen car, but he's done great. So it's very much a possibility. He might be the Vegas favorite. I don't know, though. He's somewhere in that 10 to 12 to 1 range. Kyle Busch was able to get win number 100 at Pocono for Kyle Busch Motorsports. Yeah, that did happen this year. I kind of forgot about that. Wendy's paint schemes were good in 2023. They were. The Daytona 500, the Beef. They should have ran that paint scheme in the Xfinity race too, because it was the Beef, it's what's for dinner 300 at Daytona. And then you have the Wendy's, it's Beef, and it could have been Wendy's, it's Beef, what's for dinner 300 at Daytona. Different sponsors, I know, but, still funny. Oh, okay. Dylan, funny. Woo! In between the lines, or lanes, my bad, says, any sponsors that are no longer in the sport that you would like to see return? Lowe's, they always had, if we're basing off paint schemes, Lowe's, they were hit or miss, but when they hit very hard, grand slam home runs. I know DuPont is Exalta now. Can I say DuPont? Just the DuPont looked better. I don't know why, the DuPont logo. It's just more classic, I guess. In my head, it's more classic. Raptor, please leave. Respectfully, once again. Exalta paint schemes are always so pretty, and then Raptor exists, and it's taking Exalta paint scheme races away, and it breaks my heart as a Jeff Gordon fan. So respectfully, leave. Give Exalta its races back. Then I don't know. I mean, M&M's, I know it's been really short, but M&M's always had classic looks, and I love M&M's. I eat M&M's all the time. It's my favorite chocolate. It's candy, whatever you want to call it. I love M&M's. I want them to come back. It was sad to see them leave, and it caused the Kyle Busch saga, which that was a fun time, his whole free agency, but I miss M&M's in NASCAR. I agree that Trackhouse has some awesome paint schemes. Reading is hard. Ross Chastain's hauler is one of the most impressive I've ever seen. Can't say I've paid too much close attention to Ross Chastain's hauler. Usually the only time I have paid attention to haulers, you guys have seen the videos, is like when I'm at the track and I'm there like next to the haulers. That's about the only time I pay attention to them. Other than that, if I don't see them on the highway, I don't pay attention to them. So, but I'll take your word for it. Top 3 least favorite races in 2023. Vegas spring race had a lot of excitement because the Vegas races in 2022 were fun, and the spring Vegas 2023 left me disappointed. Watkins Glen and All-Star. I was at Vegas spring. Yeah, I had high expectations going into that one as well, because 2022 spring Vegas is one of the best races I've ever been to. But then Byron and Larson led like 95% of the laps and kind of, spoiled the fun. So, yeah, from that aspect, but, the fastest car won that day, which was fun to see. It was my first time seeing the 24 win in person, which I appreciated. But, yeah, it was a rough race in terms of the race itself. Watkins Glen, yeah, that was a rough one too. Just nothing happened really other than Elliott's car dying because they miscalculated the fuel. And then All-Star race, I would not put it bottom 3. I disagree with that. I don't think it's bottom 3. The All-Star race, the tire aspect made that a better race. It was not a good race. It was not a great race. I'd say it was an average race. It fit mid-pack if we were to rank the races this year. It wasn't bad. The tire aspect made it different. Seeing Larson go from like 18th to 1st, that was fun. Seeing Bubba Wallace go from 23rd to 2nd, that was fun. Sure, the second half of the race was a little stinky, but, it was not a terrible race. It was not a bottom 3 race of the year. I've got to disagree with you there, Micah. Do you think the 2024 season will be equally as painful for Legacy Moto Club? I've been debating that all off season long with myself because last year I put Eric Jones in the playoffs and that went horribly wrong. But they're moving to Toyota. Toyota, they've got less cars so they can spread their resources out a little bit more. They've got the funding, I hope. They would be one of the more supplied teams versus if they were a Chevy team. But at the same time, it's a full-blown manufacturer change. There's a lot of changes already with Jimmy Johnson coming in, so there's going to be double the growing pains. So I honestly do not know what to expect with this team this year, but I'm cautiously optimistic. They looked better at the end of last year, and we've seen manufacturer changes be home runs in the past. We've seen, remember when SHR, they switched to Ford. They made the championship Ford that first year with Harvick. Not that they weren't successful with Chevy, but, they continued their success. We saw Boyer win races. We saw, did Almirola win a race that first? Was that 2017 or 2018 they switched to Ford? If it was 17, Danica was still there, and, well, we know how that went. And Kurt Busch won the Daytona 500 in 17. So it was 17. They won their first race together. So, yeah, Ford and Stewart-Haas, that was successful. Trying to think of other recent like big teams. Penske from Dodge to Ford, they had a rough first year. So, I don't know. Very long explanation of saying, I don't know. So, apologies for not knowing anything. I like the M&M scheme as well. FedEx schemes looked good as well. Yeah, FedEx usually has a good paint scheme. Personally, I didn't like the 2019 through 2021 paint scheme. It was almost all white. There were only a couple of purple stripes. It was boring. It looked like a test paint scheme. The past couple of years, though, I've liked the purple, the majority purple on the top. I wish they'd do more with the side of the car, get some purple stripes, orange stripes going through there. But you know what? I can't complain too much. I'm gonna check some NFL scores real quick, and then I will be back to reading your comments. This is gonna take like 30 seconds, so don't get upset or mad. I just want to see who's winning the games. The Eagles lost. Haha, they lost at home to the Cardinals. Let's all laugh at the Eagles. Frauds. I'm a Cowboys fan. The Cowboys have sucked my whole life. But, I still I like laughing at the Eagles, okay? So let me do it. Oh. Why are you being weird, iPad phone? Okay. Ooh, the Bengals. Wow. That's crazy. All right. I got my NFL fix. Back to the comments. The reason why you didn't like the All-Star race was because I had high expectations and I thought it wasn't exciting. Larson obliterated the field and had like a 15-second lead at some points. Yeah, so that's the thing is that, well, there's other sports. As I said, I'm a Cowboys fan. If you see this hat, I've had teams with high expectations before, and, then they end up crashing hard. And so I've learned to lower my expectations because of that. But it's also in racing, I've learned that as well. The biggest example being the 2020 Bristol All-Star Race. When the All-Star Race was announced that it was going to be at Bristol, NASCAR fans thought that this was going to be the greatest All-Star Race of all time. They were stoked. They were so excited. Bleh. Like, nothing happened in the All-Star race. It wasn't terrible, but it was nowhere near what people thought it was going to be. And therefore, everyone's like, oh, what a terrible race. Never put the All-Star race back at Bristol. Because of one mediocre race, people are screaming that it was terrible and that it should never be All-Star race again because they thought it was going to be the greatest All-Star race of all time. So after that, and then with the new tracks too, like everyone's like, oh, Chicago street race, that's going to be terrible. It's going to be horrific. And then it ends up being a good race, and everyone's like, oh, we might have to keep this on the calendar, huh? So I've learned to kind of just get rid of expectations with new races or new racetracks or going back to old racetracks. So that might be why I have a different opinion than you on the North Wilkesboro All-Star races, because I didn't have expectations. A lot of people had expectations. An old classic track coming back, a track that a bunch of the fan base loves and adores. And so therefore they had high expectations from it. And then when it kind of didn't live up to their expectations, the disappointment hits a little bit harder. So in conclusion, in my years of life, I have learned, don't have expectations or lower your expectations so that the average things can make you feel better. Was interesting seeing Ty Gibbs, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., and Christopher Bell rocking the interstate battery scheme since they were mainly associated with Rowdy Bush. That was so bizarre. I didn't like it. I'm going to straight up say it. Seeing interstate batteries on the 11, I never want to see again. That was weird. I didn't like it. The 54 was fine because I think we'd seen it in Xfinity, and, it's a new look for Ty Gibbs. Truex, we'd seen it before, so I'm a little bit used to it, but still weird. The 20 we've seen in Xfinity, but still weird. But the 11, no, please never put interstate batteries on the 11 again. Buy out a couple races of the 54 before anything. The 54 and interstate batteries, great, cool, epic. Interstate batteries on the 11, bad, no, bleh. Please don't do that again. 20, preferably not. 19, no. I'm not as set on it not being on the 19 as I am the 11. But please don't put interstate batteries on the 11 again. That's all I ask, Joe Gibbs Racing. It's a beautiful paint scheme. Just seeing the 11 on it is just, no. Did you see the King unveiling the new NASCAR truck that his grandson's going to drive? Faction 46 is the team name. Yeah, that was a few weeks ago. I did see it. I don't have many opinions because I don't know that much, so I don't know what else to say. Cool that it's Richard Petty's grandson. Cool that there's a new truck team since GMS is out the way. But don't have many opinions because I don't know much about it. Apologies for the lack of explanation or opinion. What did you think of Denny Hamlin's Mavis tires and brakes and tires scheme? I actually liked it. I like the color teal. I'm weird. Is that teal or turquoise? I always flip-flop the two, but whatever color that was, I like that color. I wish the number 11 was not yellow, because yellow and teal just is kind of a random combination. So, no thank you. But it could have been worse. It could have been the Interstate Batteries paint scheme on the 11. But it was fine. They can do better, but it wasn't bad. I can't complain too much. I'm a Jets fan. Oh, ooh. And I thought I've had a rough NFL fandom in my lifetime. Yikes, man. Man. Yeah, I can't imagine what you've gone through this season. Such high expectations, and then Aaron Rodgers, like 3 plays into the season, just rips his Achilles, and you're back to Zach Wilson, and then Zach Wilson gets benched, and then he gets unbenched, then he gets benched again, then he gets unbenched again, then he gets my heart goes out to you in between the lanes. That's That's tough. That really is. But the Cowboys got a home field advantage again. As of now, if they don't screw it up next week, they very well could. They suck on the road. But thank you, Eagles, for sucking. Makes me happy that you suck. Makes me so happy. Very happy. William Byron wins Daytona 500. I will be happy. Yeah, it'd be cool to see the 24 win the Daytona 500. Hasn't happened since 2005. We're approaching almost 20 years since Gordon last won the Daytona 500. He got really close in, I think it was 2014. He finished third or fourth, maybe even second. Top five at worst. It was at worst fifth, and it was at best second. Somewhere in that second to fifth range. The one that Dale Jr. won. But other than that, he has not really gotten close. I remember he dominated the first half of the 2015 one. Then he got shuffled back, and then the last lap of the race, he crashed, and that was his Daytona 500 career. So it's been a while, and then I think Byron has crashed out of every single Daytona 500 he's been in, or finished 25th or worse, something like that. So I don't have high expectations for Byron in the 500, but you never know. This is the Daytona 500. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Austin Cindric, and Michael McDowell are your last three winners, so anything could happen. No disrespect to those three, but it is a point. If you're trying to make the point that it's a random crapshoot, that's a very good argument. So there you go. Will you think Chase Elliott win in 2024? If so, 2020 or how many wins? I predict at least 4. He's going to have a nice reset this offseason. Will be ready to go this upcoming season. I think his over-under is 2.5 or 3.5 right now for wins next year. So you're about at that number. He hasn't won at a road course since 2021. I would expect that trend to break. I think he's going to get back into victory lane for sure, just overall. He's not going to go winless again. If he has a full season under his belt without an injury, without a suspension, without weird, wacky stuff happening to him, he will win a race. This was a huge question from 2016 to 2018. Can he win a race? But ever since then, there's been no question that he's going to win races every year, not just a race, but multiple races. So I think he gets back to his winning ways. I think he wins a couple of races at least. It's hard to predict domination in the Cup Series, especially in the next-gen era, so I'm not going to predict that he's going to dominate, but I would say somewhere in that 2 to 4 range, like you predicted with 4 wins. I expect him to win a road course again, whether that's Coda, whether it's Chicago, whether it's Watkins Glen again. I'd expect him to get back to his winning ways at the road courses, and I'd expect him to get a win on an oval as well. Dover has probably been one of his best ovals. That track just, for some reason, suits him very well. He has a couple of wins there. He's got a lot of top 5s, top 10s, lap sled at that track. So I'd expect him to run well there. So maybe he gets, let's say he wins Coda, he wins Dover, and then a third race at, I don't know, a random track like Vegas, I don't know, Kansas, something like that. So Kansas, he ran really well at Kansas this year. So let's say he has 3 wins. That could very well be it. Dover, Coda, Kansas. There's his 3 wins. If that ends up happening in 2024, like his 3 wins are at Dover, Coda, and Kansas, someone here make that clip go viral or something. I don't know what else to say. I doubt it's going to come true. Faction 46 is working along with Nice Motorsports as a really good truck team. So they're going to be associating themselves with a really successful truck team. Almost won the championship this year. I'm not talking about the truck championship again. I can't. It's been a month and a half, and I just can't. I can't. Would be nice to see Kyle Busch or Martin Truex Jr. win the Daytona 500. Yeah, we've got a lot of champions who have never won the Daytona 500. Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch. So, yeah, we've got at least five champions who have never won the Daytona 500. Kyle Busch got really close last year. He was leading at mile 500. Unfortunately, mile 500 was under caution, so he did not get to keep the checkered flag. Martin Truex Jr., he got really close in 2016. Other than that, he's come nowhere close. Chase Elliott finished second in 2021. Other than that, he hasn't really come close. And then Kyle Larson, I have better luck at super speedways than Kyle Larson. and I've never driven a NASCAR race car. I've never raced in NASCAR. So that about tells you how bad of luck Kyle Larson has at super speedways and the Daytona 500. So, yeah. So if we're ranking those, and then Brad Keselowski, how can I forget Brad? Brad, I don't know how he doesn't have a Daytona 500 yet. He's one of the best, maybe the best super speedway racers in active NASCAR. He's won at Daytona before. He's got like 6 Talladega wins. It's mind-blowing that he doesn't have a Daytona 500. And RFK's been so good at the super speedways. I think he's the favorite to win the Daytona 500 right now. But if we're ranking those 5 champions who have not won a Daytona 500, Brad Keselowski, number 1. I'm going to go Elliott, number 2, because he's been better at the next-gen super speedways. 3, I'll go Kyle Busch because RCR, he's got a super speedway win, almost won this race last year. 4, I'll go Truex, and Larson's last. I'm sorry. Larson has to survive a super speedway race. Not a Daytona 500. He has to survive a Daytona 500 before I move him ahead of anyone on any super speedway power rankings. He is last on every single list. No disrespect. He's a great driver, but I think even he would agree with me that his super speedway numbers are absolute doo-doo. Pardon the language. Austin Dillon and Martin Truex Jr. had some good Bass Pro paint schemes. I loved Truex's this year. He had a great-looking paint scheme. I remember the 2022 one was a little bit dull because I think it was just black. But this year they made it camo. Like the camo pattern went throughout. It was a good-looking race car. Kyle Busch almost won it this past year. Yeah, as I said, he was leading on mile 500, but ultimately the caution came out, so that didn't work out for him. I think he ended up finishing, what, 4th or 6th, something like that. I know this has been a trendy question, but do you think Denny Hamlin will finish his career without a championship? I'm sorry, man. It's at first it was just kind of like it was a funny little joke, 2010, ha ha ha. But he's cursed. Like, it's borderline not funny anymore. 2010, that was a straight up choke. 2014, okay, he never had a chance. Like, Harvick was better than him. Who else was in that Final Four? Logano was better than him. He was better than Ryan Newman that year, but, stupid format. How many times have I said stupid format in this live stream? 10? 10 already in 43 minutes? Stupid format, saying it again. But so 2010, he choked. 2014, not really his fault. I think they were just happy to be there. They shouldn't have been there. What other years has he made it? 2019, he should have won. He didn't choke it, but his team did by putting that giant piece of tape on it. 2020, they were probably the favorite going into the championship race since Harvick was out of it, and then they just crapped the bed, essentially. They were the worst out of the championship 4. They never had a shot at it. 2021, he was more competitive, but Larson was the best driver, best team that year. They deserved it the most, and they won it. So, applause. That's, they're better than you. Straight up, they were better than you than that year. Respect, 2022, he didn't even make the Final Four because of the Hail Melon. And that is when it was like, okay, this is like, he is cursed. That was when I thought, like, he is genuinely cursed to not win a championship. 2010, he choked. 2019, too big a piece of tape. 2022, a dude does something that no one has even seen happen in NASCAR history by flooring it on the wall in Martinsville. How else can you lose a championship? And then this year, did he make the Final Four this year? No, he did not. He missed it this year. So, to answer your question, no. Usually, I'd be optimistic and say yes. Like 5 years ago, I would have been optimistic and said yes. But he has not done anything. Him and that team have not done anything to prove me otherwise. They've won a ton of races. They're a very successful team. Denny Hamlin's a Hall of Fame driver, but ultimately, I do not think that championship will come for Denny Hamlin. I think he'll win championships as an owner, for sure. Tyler Reddick will, I think he will become a Cup Series champion. So I think Denny Hamlin on the owner side of things, he's going to win championship, at least one. He'll win multiple championships. But from the driver's perspective, unfortunately, my opinion as of today is no, Denny Hamlin will not win a championship. Excuse me. You think Prosper, Texas' own Chris Buescher could win the Daytona 500? Prosper, Texas mentioned, first of all, I'm like 30 minutes away. I should do a video up there. That'd be fun. Watch the Daytona 500 for Prosper. That'd be really fun. Yeah, he's just like I said with Brad, he's got a great chance. He's a good super speedway racer. RFK has been really strong at that style of racetrack. He won the most recent race at Daytona. I think as long as he doesn't crash out and either Brad or David Reagan's alive at the end of the thing, Buescher's got a great shot. He may be the favorite if he's still alive at the end of the thing. So Chris Buescher, for sure, could win the Daytona 500. I think he's got a great shot at it. So, Chris Buescher, Prosper, Texas' own. Prosper, Texas mentioned, he's got a chance. In 2014, Hamlin was leading late and passed by Kevin Harvick and Ryan Newman on the final restart. Yeah, he had one win that year, I think, and it was at Talladega. Other than that, I can't remember a single thing he did that year. Gordon should have been in the Final Four over him. I am still mad about that. I still hold a grudge against NASCAR for that because they screwed him out of the championship that year. And Keselowski, as much as Keselowski was mean to Gordon that year at Texas, and I still have nightmares about that race because I was there, Brad should have been in that Final Four. He had 4 or 5 wins that year. So Brad Keselowski, Jeff Gordon should have been in the Final Four over Ryan Newman and Denny Hamlin. So as I said, I think Hamlin and team were just happy to be there that year. But what do I know? Denny Hamlin drives the FedEx truck in the off season. Could you imagine the FedEx truck pulls up to your house, knocks on the door to give you a package, and you open it up and it's Denny Hamlin? That'd be the funniest off-season meme of all time. That would be quite humorous. Really would be. Man. For those of you who care about the NFL, I just pulled it up on my laptop here. The Cincinnati Bengals are leading 17-13 at half over the Kansas City Chiefs. And in other news, the Pittsburgh Steelers are beating the Seattle Seahawks 17-14. The Los Angeles Chargers are currently losing to the Denver Broncos 13-3. That's your afternoon slate of the NFL. Let's see what's happening in the Seahawks game. I'm not a Seahawks fan or anything. I was just curious. Interesting. In 2014, the Final Four should have been Harvick, Gordon, Logano, and Keselowski. Those were the best four that year. By the way, Keselowski had the most ones with 6. I was close. I said 5. If you round to the nearest 6, I was there. But yeah, that was before playoff points, and the format was truly a full-blown crapshoot. It's still a full-blown crapshoot, but it was more of a full-blown crapshoot before the playoff points in 2014. I think that was 14, 15, and 16, and then the playoff points were introduced in 17. But yeah, Gordon got screwed out of a championship that year. Keselowski got screwed out of a Final Four slot. As mad as I am at him for that year, he did get screwed out of a Final Four spot. So, yeah, for sure, I 100% agree with you there, Micah. That should have been the Final Four that year, but unfortunately NASCAR's format is stupid and does not allow for that. So, yeah, here we go. Watching the Bengals-Chiefs game along with your live stream. That's always nice to hear. I'm up there with an NFL game. I'm going to tell people that now. I'm going to say, you know what? Someone in between the lanes on YouTube once said that they were watching an NFL game at the same time as me. I'm basically an NFL game. If only I got the same ratings, that'd be neat. Oh, gosh. You've given me a big ego in between the lanes. Look what you've done. I'm out of control. That's a nice scoring game. 17-13, 30 points at half. Good amount of touchdowns. If the playoff format was in 2014, Gordon should have made the Final Four. Yeah, if they had playoff points, Gordon would have made the Final Four. And then he dominated Homestead. He led over 100 laps, and I think he pitted late because he wanted to give the Final Four guys a chance to fight it out on their own without disturbing it. So he would have won that race too. God, I hate this format so much. I just want to. Can we stop talking about 2014? It's too sad. It's been almost a decade. It has been almost a decade since it's been a decade since 2014. In 7 hours. You're making me feel old. Oh my gosh. All right. Ugh, that's freaky. That just freaked me out. I just got genuine chills. Oh, I don't like that. Frank is also doing the same. If he's talking about watching the Bengals Chiefs along with the live stream, thank you, Frank. Thank you in between the lanes. We're closing in on the NFL. We've 8 viewers versus 8 million viewers. We are inching towards the top. Slowly but surely, we have gone down a viewer. We are going farther away from the NFL's ratings. Who retirement next year NASCAR? Ooh, that is a very interesting question. Who will be the next NASCAR driver to retire? Denny Hamlin's getting up there. Martin Truex Jr. I would say Brad Keselowski's getting up there, but he's kind of been rejuvenated with this whole RFK thing. I'm going to say Martin Truex Jr., this whole 1-and-1 deal, essentially, where he just kind of pushes his contract negotiations to the next year. It's not that he doesn't seem like he's into it anymore. He's still winning races. He's still competitive. But as a helicopter goes by, I don't know if you can hear that, but the helicopter going by. I'm going to say Truex. I just feel like he's next. No other way to say it. He's getting up there in age. His success has not been as much, but he's still driving at a very high level. And his contract just keeps on doing this whole 1 year. Then we'll talk about it next year. Oh, it's next year? Let's just do another 1 year deal. We'll talk about it next year. Oh, it's next year again? All right, let's talk about next year. This everlasting cycle of Martin Truex Jr. Pushing his contract to next year. I didn't want to be the one to bring it up, but we've talked about the NFL here. Anyone else want to talk about college football? No? Does anyone want to talk about college football? Anyone? Hate that the next gen car forced Kurt, but oh yeah, that's so sad. It's sad to think about that. Yeah. It sucks that his career ended the way it did. I wish it ended differently, but you can't change things, which sucks, but I feel bad for Kurt. You know, Kurt's whole career story, you know, just early on wins a championship, goes through some personal issues, but, you know, becomes a better person. Everyone, you know, likes him now. He's become one of the most likable drivers. His turnaround is incredible. Whenever he wins, people are so happy. Like, who would have thought that 15 years ago? But ultimately, he still ended his final year with a win. I watched college football. Alabama versus Texas in the championship. All right. So here's my thing. Michigan is good. Don't get me wrong. But they haven't really played anyone this year. Like, they played Ohio State, and Ohio State's a good team when they have their full roster, not when they have their 1/3 of a roster like they did on Friday. My God, that was a terrible game. But Ohio State's really good. But other than that, Michigan didn't really play anyone. Penn State, I'm sorry, they're not good. They play Ohio State and Michigan every year. They lose by double digits, and then they do nothing else the rest of the year because they play Illinois, Maryland, and Maine. And then that's their non-conference game or something. And I'm like, what has Penn State done, you know? So, I'm sorry. I don't see Michigan winning. I know they're the number 1 team. I know they're 13-0. I know the Connor Stallions thing has been really, really funny. It's still bad, but it's a funny scandal. You know, it's It's not like he murdered someone. You know, he was stealing some signs, which is bad, but it's funny. Just his whole Central Michigan, that was the funniest part. Anyways, Michigan, the reason I don't think they win is because their quarterback hasn't had to do anything. J.J. McCarthy, he's good, yes, but he hasn't had to do anything really most of the season. You know, they have a very strong run game. Blake Corum, and I think their second running back is really good as well. And yeah, they can run the ball. But McCarthy has not had this high pressure situation this year. And I know, yes, he was there last year. He was a part of that shootout against TCU in the playoff. But I think Alabama beats him. I think Milroe has just developed a lot this year. He can throw, he can run. That dual threat has been deadly to a lot of teams this year. And I think ultimately that could be what is Michigan's downfall, is that they can't keep up with Alabama in terms of scoring. Alabama, they can score on the ground and in the air, whereas Michigan, they're a very ground-oriented team. So it's no disrespect to Michigan, but, you know, they haven't had to throw a lot, and they've been running a lot. And yes, they have a really good defense, but at the same time, Ohio State's like the one good team they played this year. Notre Dame. Notre Dame was another good team they played this year. Other than that, I'm struggling to think of another like good quality team they played this year that their defense has really shut down. So, and that's for Texas, Washington. I'm a Texas fan. I've been a Texas fan my whole life. I remember watching the national championship in 2009 and being super sad and crying because I was 9 years old. And then ever since that, it has been sucky, to say the least. So this year has been a blessing, and I am enjoying every moment of it because I know how quickly it can go down, as we saw after that national championship in 2009. So I am not taking any of this for granted. I'm extremely happy. I'm so excited for the game tomorrow. I just want them to be competitive. Obviously, I want them to win. But, you know, if they lose, make it a show at least. But when I saw they were in the playoff, I was really happy, obviously. But then the next thing was, I wish it was Michigan. Washington's really good this year. I know they've had their close calls with Arizona State and, you know, who else have they had? Arizona State, Washington State. They've had some close calls against some teams they should not have had close calls with, but so has Texas. But Texas's secondary has struggled. We've seen Donovan Smith throw all over them from Houston. We saw Dylan Gabriel. I can't believe Texas lost to freaking OU this year. They should have won that game. But that's been the problem. And then Texas, but the thing that has been great for Texas is their run defense. They have two of the best D linemen in the country, and no one can run on them. The Doak Walker Award winner only had 34 yards in the conference championship game against them. So I'm not Dylan Johnson for Washington, really good running back, but I'm not super concerned about him on the run game because Texas has shut down the run for almost every team that they played, and they've played two of the best backs in the country with Taj Brooks at Texas Tech and Ollie Gordon at OSU. So I think their run defense is fine, but I am concerned about the pass defense. I'm curious to see how they adjust to Penix and the NFL receivers, the NFL quarterback. This is like an NFL offense almost, it feels like. So we'll see. But Texas, their offense has been clicking the last two races. Ewers has been on fire. All-star receivers with Worthy and Mitchell. Jatavion Sanders, he's probably my favorite player. The tight end, he plays like a receiver sometimes. He plays like a tight end at other times. I mean, he can do everything, it seems like. So I think he could be the wild card factor for Texas, Jatavion Sanders. He's one of my favorite players to watch on Texas. Fun fact of the day for you. But it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be high scoring. Bama, Michigan will end up being like Bama's going to win 34-21 or something. Texas, Washington is going to be like a 42-38 shootout, and I could see it going either way. I hope Texas can win, but I don't know. But I'm going to say 42-38, one of the teams. Alabama beats Michigan 34-20. Yeah. I got really sidetracked in talking about the playoff here that I missed a bunch of comments. Alabama-Texas rematch would be cool in the championship. I would rather not play Alabama again because it's Alabama, but could you imagine Texas beats Alabama twice in a season to win a national championship? It would make up for so much childhood trauma and sadness from 2009. This time I'd be crying myself to sleep in happiness versus sadness. I was 9 years old back then. It's not that deep. Don't worry. I think Martin Truex Jr. still has one more championship in him. Yeah, I thought it was going to be this year, and then the playoffs happened, and, well, we saw what happened. Some of these bowl games have been blowouts. Oh, yeah. There have been some ugly bowls this year. Georgia, Florida State. Texas Tech, Cal wasn't really a good game. Tech controlled that game the entire time. The best bowl game so far was between Western Kentucky and Old Dominion. Western Kentucky was down 4 touchdowns at one point, and they came back and won it in overtime. That was a fantastic game. I can't remember. It was like the Toastery Bowl or something. Fantastic game between those two teams. And then the Pop-Tart Bowl. That Pop-Tart mascot, Strawberry was his name. Strawberry is my hero. He was crazy. He was insane. He's an American icon now. Strawberry, the Pop-Tart mascot, may he forever rest in peace. You are toast and have been eaten by Kansas State. Do you ever rewatch NASCAR races in the offseason? I rewatch highlights, but never really watch a ton of full races. I know they now have the NASCAR Classic, so honestly, I could go watch full races, old races that I haven't seen in a while, old races that I've been to that I've wanted to watch on TV. That might be my goal in January. Go watch the 2010 AAA Texas 500, the first ever race I went to. So that might be the goal for January. There's my New Year's resolution. Watch the 2010 AAA Texas 500 on YouTube, the full race. Georgia crushed Florida State 63-3. So I went to a movie yesterday. It was 21-3 when I went into the theater and turned off my phone because I am a civilized human being who turns off my phone when I go into a movie theater. And when the movie was over and I get out the movie and pull up my phone, I was expecting it to be a blowout. Yeah, Georgia's better than Florida State. Florida State had a lot of opt-outs. I was expecting like 48-10, 49-13, something like that. My Lord, when I saw 63-3, I thought it was a typo. I was like, 63-23, please be a typo. No, sir. 63-3. They murdered them. They threw the body off the cliff and murdered them again. Oh, my God. I know that Florida State had a bunch of opt-outs and stuff, but my Lord, that is the worst blowout in bowl history. Georgia also owns the second biggest blowout in bowl history, the 58-point national championship last year. Oh, my gosh. Glad I didn't watch that game. Glad I went to a movie instead. Liberty plays Oregon. Yeah, Liberty's been good this year, but, you know, they had the weakest schedule in the country. Oregon's got a high-powered offense, and, you know, I know they're a little bit mad about losing the last Pac-12 championship. Rest in peace, Pac-12. We will never forget you, Pac-12. But I think Oregon wins that handily. Nowhere near as bad as, you know, Florida State, Georgia. But I just don't think Liberty can keep up, even though Oregon's still going to be disappointed they didn't win the Pac-12. Happy New Year, Gabriel. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope you have a good New Year's Eve, New Year. Happy New Year. The most annoying thing about NASCAR diecast is when they get canceled. I have not gotten a diecast in a while. It's been a couple of years. I've got a ton of 164s. I've got a couple 124s from race wins either I've been to or that mean a lot to me. I need to get a next-gen diecast. That's what I need to do. I don't have any of those yet. Or I might have one. I think someone gave me one. It's like a birthday gift. It's somewhere in this room. Yeah, I might get one at some point. I got to find a good reason to get one, though. I got a gift card for the NASCAR store somewhere over there. I'll use it for that. And then we'll do a diecast review. I should have been doing those in the off-season. I've got all these diecasts. I should be reviewing them. We got sidetracked. Another good thing is MRN Classic Races can be Spotify in addition to watching old races. I don't know what that means. But MRN, the Motor Racing Network. Very good commentary. Yes, canceling diecast is stupid. Some of the schemes are good that get canceled. Yeah, it's based on like order amount, right? Something like that. I've never seen so many transfers in my entire life. Yeah, the portal is so whack and so wild, but the calendar that college football has is also awful as well. Like, why is signing day, the portal being open, and the national championship all within a 3-week time period? Like, that's terrible design. Like, every other league that has massive shifts in rosters in terms of like players going from one team to another, not like recruits coming out of high school. Every other league, like the NFL, NBA, MLB, whoever it may be, they spread it out, but college doesn't. I don't know. I guess there's a reason I don't run the NCAA, but it seems a little weird, but I don't know anything. William Byron, sponsored by Liberty University. Yeah, I guess he's going for Liberty tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow that they play. I don't know. I know Iowa plays tomorrow before the playoff. They're the pre-playoff show. Iowa football, ladies and gentlemen. I've referenced them a few times on the channel. Iowa football is beautiful. I don't care what anyone else says. It's beautiful, and I love it. Oh, yeah, they do play tomorrow. Oregon Liberty at noon o'clock Eastern. Or no, noon o'clock Central. My bad. I forgot what time zone I was in. If you haven't got a diecast in a while, maybe try getting SVG. Ooh, it's not a bad idea. It's honestly really not a bad idea. That or get the Byron Vegas win, because that was the first time I saw the 24 win in person, even though it was the Raptor car. But I did get to see him win an Exalta at Atlanta this year. The most heartbreaking moment I had watching a race was the 2022 Southern 500. Kyle Busch was going through a rough year, and I was so happy that he was running up front and leading a lot of laps. Then with 24 to go, something. The engine. Yeah, I remember that. That was a crazy race because Eric Jones ended up winning. Joe Gibbs Racing just died. Truex and Kyle Busch had dominated that race, and then they both lose their engines within the span of like 20 laps. Yeah, that was a crazy one. Then on top of that, just the whole Kyle Busch contract saga. I think he had just announced he was leaving, or he was about to announce he was leaving. And that essentially wrote his playoff hopes and dreams. And the engine, the conspiracy theorists will say that it was self-destructed by Joe Gibbs Racing. But I think realistically, they just had some bad parts. We saw a lot of part failures that race. Truex blew up. Harvick blew up, and Harvick's car caught on fire. And then Kyle Busch blew up as well. And then Eric Jones ended up winning. Which that ended up being a fun win. Eric Jones in the 43 at Darlington, that was a fun race winner. The transfer needs to be fixed. I heard a couple referring to the games as exhibition games. I love bowl season, and all the transferring has made it so whack because whenever someone loses, they just use the excuse of, oh, this wasn't our full roster, this wasn't our full team, nobody wanted to be there. But then for like the smaller schools, like I talked about, the best bowl game that I've watched this season was Western Kentucky versus Old Dominion. You don't think of those two as powerhouses in football. I think those two had their full rosters, and that was a really fun game to watch because they cared so much. When Jacksonville State beat Louisiana, that was their first bowl appearance, and they won their first ever bowl, and look how happy they were. So beautiful. No disrespect to these big schools for developing NFL talent, but, you know, it would be fun if we could see everyone play. Say Blaney was nowhere in striking distance. Who wins 2018 Roval? McMurray, Truex, or Johnson? McMurray, because McMurray ended up finishing second in the race behind Blaney, so McMurray would be your answer there. It's a pretty straightforward answer. That's like the least description I've had on an answer that I actually knew the answer to. Nice. Didn't Cody Ware also blow up in that Darlington race? I don't know. I don't know either. I usually don't pay attention to Cody Ware unless he crashes or blows up, and then I forget about it like within the next 20 laps, unless it's race altering. So it must have not been a race altering blow up by Cody Ware. I clicked on the wrong thing there. I believe he crashed in that race. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been over a year since I've watched that race because I've watched it once. And I think I watched the highlights in the off season last year because it was a good race. Watching Eric Jones win was fun, but ultimately, fell short. Winter Classic is tomorrow along with the bowl games. Is that the hockey game they do outside? They did it at the Cotton Bowl in South Dallas a couple of years ago. I didn't go, but I saw the pictures and it looked really cool. I got a friend who's a big hockey fan, and he said that it was really cool. So I think, are they doing it in Seattle this year with the Kraken, the Seattle Kraken? I don't know who they'd be playing. Vegas Golden Knights? They playing the Golden Knights? Maybe? No? Vegas? No? Who are they playing? If it's in Seattle and it's the Kraken, who are they playing? In between the lanes. Speaking of Cody Ware, what do you see happening with Rick Ware Racing? They seem to be getting a little bit more serious with adding Justin Haley. Other than that, I don't know. I don't know if they're keeping Cody Ware or not. If they are, I mean, Cody Ware is just not the greatest driver. I wish they'd, get someone else in there, but ultimately Rick Ware, he makes the decisions. It's his call. But, seeing the team improve would be a big step. And by improve, I mean, consistently run top 25. If they can do that, that is a huge step forward for them. Even if it's running 24th and 25th every week, that is a huge step forward for them. Trying to finish top 30 in points, I think, should be the goal this year. I think that's a somewhat realistic goal. It's a bit of a long shot still, but I think if Justin Haley can get top 30 in points this year, that's success for him. There's still going to be back markers, but if they want to make that step up into the midfield, they've got to start somewhere. And I think top 30 in points, running top 25 consistently on speed, that is a step forward. That is a step somewhere in the right direction. I hope Chase Elliott has stayed off the snowboards this year. What a wild story that was. I remember where I was because I was picking up dinner before I was flying out to the Vegas race that weekend, and I got the notification on my phone, or someone, I think my friend texted me and said, "Look up Chase Elliott news." I was like, "What Chase Elliott news? Has he got a contract extension? He just signed a contract extension." Oh, his leg is broken. He's done for a month or 2 months, however long it was. That was crazy. Yes, it's the hockey game. Yes, in Seattle with the Kraken and Golden Knights. Golden Knights winning. I know nothing about hockey other than the Golden Knights won the championship last year and they're winning it again this year. That could be wrong, but they started out like 13-0 this year, or the 13-0-1, 12-0-1. They won a lot of games this year early on. I think they've cooled down since. Rumor says Kaz Gralla full-time and cut for Rick Ware Racing. I think they should keep the All-Star car and put Cody in the Xfinity Series. He drives better there. I think I saw something on that rumor with Kaz Gralla. I remember his Cup debut was insane. He finished 7th in the 3 car because Austin Dillon got COVID. Kaz Gralla was called up last second, and next thing you know, he's in the top 10. He's running really, really good. I mean, that was a great debut for Kaz Gralla. So, if he gets in that Rick Ware car, I hope he can showcase his talent again. You would like hockey? Yeah, that's the thing. I watched the playoffs last year because I was interested to see how the Golden Knights and the Stars were doing. But I don't know why I just can't get into it. I really don't. It's an interesting sport, though. I love the fights. The fights are always fun. Fights are so fun. Maybe I just like violence. Maybe that's my problem. Do you think Ryan Blaney will have a championship hangover? It's been a trend the past few years. Kyle Busch in 2020 wasn't good for his standards, eliminated in the round of 12. Yeah, championship hangover has been real. We saw it with Logano this year. Remember, Logano only 1 win, knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Championship hangover. Larson, he didn't really have that much of a championship hangover. He had 3 race wins, but he got knocked out in the round of 12 too. So you could argue that was a championship hangover. Who was the 2020 champion? Oh, Elliott. Elliott made it back to the Final Four, so that wasn't a championship hangover. So the trend would tell you, yeah, Blaney's going to have a championship hangover. At the same time, though, Blaney wasn't spectacular this year. He and that team turned it on late, the last half of the playoffs, but the middle portion of the season was not great for him. Early on, they did all right. They had that win at the Coke 600. Middle portion of the season, they just weren't great, though. So, and then they closed out strong, as I said. So, if they were to repeat that trend, basically, but let's say, they don't turn up until the last 3 races of the year and they get eliminated in the round of 12, I mean, you're going to look at almost an identical season, just maybe a couple less wins or 1 less win and 2 less top 10s. So it depends on how you define championship hangover, because Blaney's numbers this year, they just weren't outstanding, but ultimately he used the format to his advantage to win the championship. Why is NASCAR so against giving teams more horsepower? My guess is money. But then again, my guess is money for everything. So there you go. Same for Kyle Larson 2022 and Joey Logano 2023 was eliminated in the first round. Yeah, we just said that. Fights and hits make the game interesting. I also find it extremely impressive how fast they can hit the puck. You get back there, you whack it, and they do the tracker. It's like 80, 90, 100 miles an hour, and the dude is just like snagging it out of the air. Like baseball, where the pitch is coming. The catcher knows what type of pitch the pitcher is throwing. He knows the pitcher, so he knows which way he's going to throw it. If there's the potential of a mistake, sometimes there's a wild pitch you can't predict. But for the most part, the catcher can get in front of the ball or catch the ball. Hockey, it's the complete opposite. You know where they're trying to hit the puck, but at the same time, you don't know which part of the goal they're going to hit it to. So they get that big mid out there and they just snag it. It's impressive. The goalies are extremely impressive in hockey. I mean, all of the players are impressive, but, the goalies, extremely impressive. Tyler Reddick had some good schemes with the Jordan Brand and Carolina Blues scheme as well. Yeah, that scheme at the Coke 600 was really nice looking. The majority of his Jordan schemes were nice looking. The one he ran at Texas, I didn't like, the white and the lime green. Like, if the green was on a black paint scheme, it would have looked nice because it would have made it pop more. But the green on the white just didn't look great. The Vegas paint scheme was better, but there was a lot going on with that paint scheme. Trying to remember the other ones, and I can't at the moment. Speed of the puck plus you're skating on ice at the same time. Yeah, I didn't really think about that ice factor. I guess I should have. It's a pretty important factor there. We're going to go 5 more minutes here, and I'm going to wrap up. It's been a good live stream. End of the year live stream. A lot of questions. A lot of good questions, too. It's been fun. It's one of the better live streams we've had this year. So, thank you to everyone. I'm watching the Pat McAfee broadcast of the bowl game tomorrow. I'll probably just watch the main. We'll see. Goal 1 is to get sleep tonight. Don't overthink and stress the game as a fan, I guess, and keep yourself up at night. Favorite backmarker team of all time, Starcom Racing. That didn't even have to breathe in between my answer there. Starcom Racing, what a team. They almost won at Daytona in July of 2019. I'm still heartbroken that Landon Castle didn't stay out. Other than that, Starcom Racing. Yeah, pretty straightforward answer. They got a top 15 at Talladega one of the times I went. That was cool. Cover more F1. I will do my best. The only thing that really hurts me with the F1 stuff is a lot of the news comes out at 3 a.m. my time. So, one, I need to get sleep most of the time. Two, I can't predict when breaking news is happening. Three, by the time I get to the news, it's old news and it's like nighttime in Europe, where the majority of the viewership was. So, when the news hits while I'm here, I try to get it. You know, Logan Sargent signing his extension, I was able to get that. I try to cover each and every race, you know, get a recap up of those, no matter if it's in Japan, where the race starts at midnight here, whether it's, Azerbaijan, where the race starts at like 5 a.m. here, or whether it's the European races where it starts at 8 p.m. here, wherever it may be. I try my best to watch all the races, but the news is a tougher thing because of the time difference, and it just really hurts overall. But when I can get it, I do my best. So, yeah. Apologies, Robert, that I do not cover everything F1. It just is a little bit more difficult to do. But I tried to make up for it at Vegas this year since I was there. Try to get as much content out as possible. Hopefully, I can get to another race next year for F1. That would be nice. Yes, Starcom is a great choice. Did you get Brock Board's coat book? Not sure what that means. So I'm going to say no. Going to go with no. Quinn Houff was pretty good at Talladega. He was pretty good at Talladega. I think he was the one that got the top 15. It was either him or Landon Castle. It was 2019 fall or 2020 fall. One of them got top 15 or both. I can't remember. Do you think Ty Gibbs will get his first career win in 2024? Yes. He showed big signs of improvement throughout the year. He had a great run at Bristol, led over 100 laps in that race. I think Ty Gibbs does win a race in 2024. So I guess, spoiler alert, he's in my playoffs next year. There you go. You got one of 16 spots in my little book. I saw the word book on there, so it made me think about in my little notes. You got one of 16 down. If you're one of the 10 people watching this, spoiler alert for the 2024 NASCAR preview. Are you going to watch the Rolex 24 at Daytona? I usually watch the first hour or two and then the last hour or two because, you know, the first hour or two is like, oh, it started, it's going. And then I'm like, yeah, the NFL playoffs are happening or something like that happens. And then the last 2 hours, I'm like, oh, I got to see the end of the race. And I think last year or 2 years ago, there was a photo finish for one of the classes, and that was fun. That was a fun one. Brock Beard. I've heard that name, but I can't say I've read a book that he's wrote. Good job on Vegas. Thank you, Robert. Yeah, that was a fun time. That's probably the race of the year for me overall. Like NASCAR, F1, other. Out of every race, that was probably my favorite race of the year. I'm biased because I was there, but you know what? Let my bias happen. Chase Elliott, new Napa paint scheme. We will do a paint scheme preview sometime in January. I don't know when in January we're going to do it, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. We'll do probably 2 or 3 like we normally do, but that first one we'll have some of Chase Elliott's paint schemes. He's got some new ones this year, and some of them are really good. Ty Gibbs had the alternate interstate batteries at the Fall Texas races past year. That was a good paint scheme. I liked it. That should be the permanent one. The black and the green, great paint scheme. What's interesting is a few years ago, Johnson, Rockefeller, and Kobayashi were all in a shared car for the Rolex 24. I remember that too because it was a big deal that Jimmy Johnson was doing that. And here we are now. Mike Rockefeller, NASCAR legend, and Kamui Kobayashi, NASCAR legend. All right. Give it like 1 more minute, 1 or 2 more questions, and then we're going to end this thing. Once again, it's been a really fun time. Really good live stream, lots of questions. I don't think I've had any real big pauses waiting for questions, which is really nice. That doesn't happen a lot on these live streams, especially when it's just me talking. Like when I have something else on the screen, it kind of helps. But the thing is, I do that on my computer. My computer is old, and last time we tried a live stream on this, I think my computer almost exploded. Like, it was making a lot of noise, and it felt like it was 300 degrees. So we're not testing that anytime soon with this computer. Pagenaud was the other driver in that car, I believe. Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, and Austin Cindric did the Rolex 2040. Yeah, a lot of NASCAR drivers have. I think Jeff Gordon won it one year. I think Kyle Larson was a part of a winning class. I don't know if he won the overall event, but he was a part of a winning team. I think Dale Jr. might have done it once. Dale Sr. might have done it. So we've seen a lot of NASCAR drivers do it before. We've seen IndyCar drivers, F1 drivers, or ex-F1 drivers. So it seems like that the endurance racing is where everyone goes at some point in their career, which is interesting. Excluding Newman and Custer, who do you think is the best driver Rick Ware Racing has had in their NASCAR tenure? I mean, you're asking the difficult questions, Team FTINT Hub. You're asking the tough questions here. Who is the best driver Rick Ware Racing has had? I mean, Newman was in there. He didn't do anything spectacular, but, you know, the name Ryan Newman resonates with a lot of people. Andy Lally's been in there. Jenson Button. Jenson Button is technically a Rick Ware Racing driver. I'm going to go with Jenson Button just because he's got an F1 World Championship. Sure, the on-track results, they were nothing spectacular. I think he got a top 20 in one or maybe two starts, but I'm going to go with Jenson Button just because that F1 World Championship, that's carrying a lot of weight for that one. So I'm going to go with Jenson Button. I'm going to read these last three comments, and then that's going to be it. I believe in 2021, Elliott and Cindric ran some electric rally series with Pastrana. I remember that. Yeah, it was some rally truck thingy. I'm going to watch it. Nitro Cross. Nitro Cross. That's what it's called. I knew I'd remember it. Allmendinger has also run the Rolex 24. Allmendinger used to be like a road course guy. That's why he's so good at the road courses in NASCAR. So Allmendinger, that's not surprising. I'm looking for Ty to win multiple races this year. Yeah. As I said, I think he wins one. Multiple, we'll see, but I think he wins at least one. Button is a good pick. He did qualify top 10 in Chicago, I believe. He did. Very good point. Well, that'll do it up. That'll do it up. I don't even know what that means. That'll do it for this live stream. Thank you for watching. Once again, thank you for keeping the questions up. You know, we don't see a lot of live streams without big pauses, without questions in them. So thank you to everyone in between the lanes, Team FTINT Hub, Patty, Micah, Roberts, everyone for asking good questions. We talked about a lot today. We talked about 2023. We talked about NASCAR. We talked about F1. We talked about endurance racing. We talked about the college football playoff. We talked about the NFL. We talked about hockey. Hockey was that was the wild card. I did not expect to talk about hockey coming into this live stream, but here we are. So thank you all for watching this video or live. I'm so used to saying thank you for watching this video because I don't do a lot of live streams, but thank you guys for watching this live stream. Glad you guys had a good time seeing Frank in between the lanes saying that you had a good time. Really glad you enjoyed it. We got some live streams to do in 2024 now. That'll do it for me on the channel in 2023. Unless there's breaking news in the last 6.5 hours of 2023, that's it for the year. So see you guys in 2024. Have a good rest of your year. Have a good start to your next year. And hopefully Texas can beat Washington tomorrow. That would be a good start to the year.